All right, y'all. I know, not sure what happened, but we back at it. We back at it. Let me get my screen up. Technical difficulties be happening sometimes, but they can't stop. One monkey can't stop no show. And all right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right, here we go. All right. Y'all, like I said, come on in. Send this out again. The ones we sent out should be good to get people in here, but we'll see. Yes, pardon the technical difficulties, everyone. We are back. Somebody make sure they share the live with the candidate. So as I was saying, District 38 encompasses Harris County. And I was telling y'all about what does a representative in the U.S. House of Representatives do? And they represent their district by writing, debating, and voting on federal laws, approving the federal budget and taxes, and serving on committees that oversee federal agencies. So, with that being said, the committee that's over DHS is having a really hard time right now. Also, the committee that oversees the DOJ is having a hard time right now. So, what we gonna do? What we gonna do? I really feel like our democratic system is being uprooted, but that's just me. In case y'all don't know, in Houston, in Texas, your primary is March 3rd. So I believe you still have time to register to vote if you have not registered yet. If you have not checked to make sure that you're still registered, please do so. You don't have long. And like I said, your primary will be here before you know it. So let's get that going. Let's see here. Hello. Up there we go. Hello, Miss Court. Sent you that invite. Hi.
Okay. Hi. Can you see me?
I see you're on the panel, but I don't see your face yet.
Okay. Now, I'm trying to see how to edit the screen.
All right. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna hit the camera button at the bottom, and when you hit the camera, okay. So I see your face now, but after you hit the camera one more time for me, and then you're going to scroll at the bottom. It says effects. You're gonna scroll that all the way over to hit the it's like a arrow.
Okay, there we go. I got it.
And then you go to the green screen and click your background. There you go.
There we go.
Okay. Perfect. Yes. Look at that. Super simple, right? Well, welcome to OVC. I am Melanie, and I will be moderating this town hall tonight.
Yes.
And asking you all the important questions, and getting to know you a little bit more. Let me remind you and everyone else. Get my thing over here. Who we are. We are Our Vote Counts, OVC for short. We are a nonpartisan coalition of citizens from diverse states and backgrounds, united by a shared commitment to empower voters and promote candidates who stand for integrity, inclusion, and accountability in the upcoming elections. Formed by a collective of educators, veterans, small business owners, students, and community advocates. Our vote count represents the strength of unity across geography, race, and ideology. While our stories are different, our mission is the same: to ensure that every voice is heard and every vote counts, truly counts. Through voter education, candidate outreach, and community engagement, we support leaders who are ready to serve the people, not special interests. By working across state lines, elevating local and national issues, we aim to increase voter turnout, inform public dialogue, and build momentum for lasting change. Our vote count is more than a name. It's a promise, a movement, and a rallying cry for democracy. Together, we are shaping the future, one informed vote at a time. So thank y'all for joining us tonight. Again, we are talking to Miss Theresa Courts, and she is running for the House of Representatives in Texas District 38, which we learned is basically Harris County in Texas, more around the Houston area. So let me tell y'all a little bit about what I learned about Miss Theresa. She grew up in a military family as the youngest child of three, raised by a single mother who was a U.S. Army vet. After high school, she enlisted in the U.S. National Guard herself as a way to serve her country and build a path to higher education. She earned a bachelor's degree in social studies education, spent 7 years teaching before earning a master's in education and becoming a school counselor. After moving to Texas, she and her husband became foster parents and eventually adopted their children, deepening their awareness of the struggles many kids face in the system. Today, she combines her experience as a veteran, a teacher, a foster mother, and a counselor to advocate for students and families in her community. Did I get that right?
Yes, ma'am, you did.
All right. Well, for those who are meeting you for the first time, what else would you like us to know? Tell us why you decided to run for the U.S. House of Representatives.
Yes. So I was sitting in our annual staff training last year, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. In the National Guard, we learned how to apply tourniquets and pack bullet wounds to prepare for war. And every year in education in Texas, we have to learn how to apply tourniquets and pack bullet wounds to prepare for the next school shooting.
Oh, no.
Congress does nothing except slash our budgets. I was 8 years old when Columbine happened, and this past month, a gun showed up at my daughter's high school. So we are still having these issues. And it's not just a Texas issue, it is a countrywide issue where we see it happening in state after state after state, where we continue to have school shootings.
Yes. So TikTok don't like certain words.
Yes,
one of them words is GUN or SHOOTINGS, right?
Yes.
So you can say pew pew, you can say weapons. I like to use weapons, so I can sound like I'm an adult. But you have worked with kids, so act like you're talking to a 5-year-old. Okay, be like, look.
Oh, I work in high school, so I'm gonna have that down that one.
Oh, well, they talk worse than us, right?
Yes, they do.
So, but yeah, so just be careful. They don't like also talking about the termination of a pregnancy. So we can't say that word. And if any more come up, I'll just raise a finger and that'll let you know which words they don't necessarily like. But so because of this school violence that you have seen, it propelled you to run for office so that you can strengthen those laws and make a difference. All right. Perfect. Well, let me let everybody know. I will be asking Miss Theresa a set of questions from 5 topics. And in between those, we will invite you up to ask a question yourself, or you can put them in the comments and I will pose that question to Miss Theresa. We also going to do this thing we call rapid fire, which is some quick questions, some questions with some quick answers. So we're going to do that in between just to break up the monotony. So as I let everybody know, your primary is March 3rd. And so we got to get the name out there as soon as possible. So we're going to talk about economic development first. District 38 is very suburban and small businesses heavy. especially in places like Cypress, Tomball, Jersey City, and Katy. Small business make up over 99% of employer firms in Harris County, but many say that rising rents, insurance costs, and access to capital are holding them back. As a member of Congress, what specific federal tools would you push to help small businesses there grow and hire locally instead of getting priced out and bought up by big corporations?
Yes. So what we need to do is we need to increase and work on our small business grants and making those more accessible for our community members. Small businesses are the way to go. When you look at mega corporations, the negative impact on workers, both in safety and wages, is atrocious. And you don't see those same kind of issues among small businesses, especially among small manufacturing companies, because it's personable. They know their employees. It's hard to treat someone horrible when you know them.
Exactly.
So working to increase access to grants to help them with those affordability issues, working to with local people and other grants to help bring down the housing and rental costs, because that is a issue all across the board in the Houston area for both small business and for individual families. Is the cost of rent, the cost of affordability is just skyrocketing. So overall policies that help to bring down those costs for everyday people as well as our business owners to just make life more affordable. And along with that, in order to spend money at a small business, people need to have money. So increasing access for everyday people through minimum wage. We need to raise our minimum wage. It was last raised in 2009, the year after I graduated high school. And it is still $7.25. Texas has not put in their own minimum wage. So really minimum 15, but 20 would be even better if we're able to push that. But we need to get a higher federal minimum wage, and people would actually have money then to spend in their local community at their small businesses.
Right. And, we talk a lot about, with candidates often about raising the minimum wage. And when I hear numbers like 15, 20, I often think that if we end up requiring employers to pay this amount, that is going to skyrocket our prices for everything else, so that they still can have their profit margin and yet still pay the employees this amount. Do you worry about that often too?
So we would definitely have to work with our small businesses as that gets shifted into the higher wages, and that would be another use of grants to help offset that, especially at first. But when you look at a lot of the people that are paying minimum wage are these mega corporations like McDonald's and Walmart, that so many of their employees are receiving government assistance, but they're raking in billions a year. So making sure that we're supporting the small businesses in this transition, but actually trying to hold those larger companies accountable and make them actually pay their employees instead of living off of government welfare.
Absolutely. I'm I'm already paying about $15 for a Big Mac meal. I'm not trying to go up to 20, right?
Sure. Fast food is not cheap anymore.
Huh?
Fast food is not cheap anymore.
It's not at all. And it's probably good that it is that high, because it keeps me from buying it. I don't need no more. I really don't. Now, many people in District 38 commute long distances every day.
Yes.
Whether it's into Houston or across the energy corridor, the traffic and aging infrastructure directly affect productivity and family time. What kind of federal infrastructure or economic development investments would you prioritize for Northwest Harris County to reduce commute strain, support growth, and make the district more livable long term?
So that's definitely a huge issue around here is the commute. When I drive to the school I work at, it's 45 minutes on a good day. And the traffic is it's insane. It's bumper to bumper. It doesn't stop. So working with our locals and funding with federal grants to try to expand our expressways. But you have to be cognizant of every time you expand an expressway, it alleviates it for a short period, but it just gets worse. As a nation, we really need to look at investing more into our public transportation system. You still there? It said it
Yeah,
paused.
I'm here. I went to share it on my story, and then it went.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Didn't know if I was losing reception. We don't have the best reception over here in this area.
that's another thing you got to worry about, huh? Okay.
Our electricity and infrastructure when it comes to the Wi-Fi and stuff is dicey at best. You get a little bit of wind and things start to go out.
So Joe Biden did pass an infrastructure bill, some legislation for infrastructure. Do you know how well Texas has used that money to fix your infrastructures, your busy roads, your flooding issues, your freezing issues, your broadband? Have they used any of that money to strengthen those things?
Not really. Nothing's gotten that much better. We just had another freeze here. It wasn't as bad as the last one, and this time the power stayed on, but it wasn't to the extreme freeze that it was before. It didn't have to face the same load. And we don't see much improvement with the bridges. They're still very aging. Internet is still real bad, even at schools where the kids are on the Chromebooks all day, and then the internet just goes off and then you can't teach. So it's a constant issue down here.
Well, speaking of the kids on the Chromebooks, let's go into education, okay? Because District 38 is a fast-growing suburban school system, many campuses are dealing with crowded classrooms and stretched resources. As a member of Congress, how would you push at the federal level to make sure schools in District 38 get the funding and support they need?
So not only are classrooms cramped, a big issue, and this is the best suburban schools to the poorer schools in the area, is finding staff. So many classrooms are just subs right now because they cannot find enough staff. So we need to use our federal strength, pass legislation like the American Teachers Act to actually pay our employees, both teachers, paras, janitors, everybody who is essential to making the school function, so that our kids actually have a place to come that is fully staffed to learn. Use our strength to ensure that we are keeping our schools safe so that educators can actually focus on teaching instead of worrying that their kids are going to get hurt.
Right.
Focusing on strengthening the Department of Education, which protects our most vulnerable students so that they can actually receive the funding that they need. And just really working on drilling down on those core things and making sure that we're providing the funding. Schools in Texas are not very well funded, and we're seeing that's going to get worse as Abbott is trying to end property taxes, which is how the majority of schools get their funding.
Right.
So
where does he plan on getting this money?
That is a wonderful question.
Because y'all don't have state taxes, correct?
We do not have state income taxes. The best that we can tell down here is the plan is to increase the sales tax because they definitely don't get enough through the lottery. We just had a couple years ago, it came out, a bunch of that money from the lottery supposed to go to education was being embezzled.
Wow. So you don't have state taxes that'll fund this. Nope. You're trying to get rid of the property tax that already funded.
Yep.
And so you're probably going to end up having state taxes at sales taxes at 25% or something.
Yep, 25 to 30.
That's crazy.
Well,
that's crazy.
That way they can try to close more public schools and go to more private. That's the overall goal appears to be down here because they don't value public education, even though it is, when you look at statistic after statistic and poll after poll, Texans love their public education system overwhelmingly. They love their local community schools. And it's horrendous that they're trying to shut so many of them down. We saw just on the news that for the students that are exercising their First Amendment rights of protest, Abbott's threatening to freeze the funding for those schools. So that would be another thing, is ensuring that we are protecting our students' rights, their civil rights, and the school not getting punished for that.
That is crazy. That's crazy. Well, we've been hearing a lot about this school choice thing
Mhm.
um, in Texas. How has that been um, being implemented in Texas? Has it been beneficial?
So the applications for that literally opened up yesterday, I believe it was on the 4th. But this scam, it got people good. If you look across all of Texas, we have over 200 counties. The vast majority of Texans do not have a private institution that is willing to accept these funds above pre-K or kindergarten anywhere near them. It's only for the vast, vast majority that do accept it, just in a couple of large cities like Houston, San Antonio, Austin. And these are schools whose tuition is $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, and you only get $10,000 for the voucher. So it's just a way for those who are already sending their children to private school to get a bit of a discount at the expense of our public schools.
Now, you mentioned something earlier about, the staffing. Do you think because we know that Texas is one of the states that have had about the highest number of the school violence that we were talking about earlier. Do you think that's a deterrent?
Yes, for sure. I work in public education right now. I'm still a school counselor at a high school. And not just the weapon violence that can come into the schools that we see played out in the media, but the amount of fighting and violence and aggression towards staff has just increased substantially since COVID. And it's like a feedback loop. As it gets worse, you have less staff. As you have less staff, it's harder to keep order and have things in a way that's safe. So it's a constant feedback, and teachers are just exhausted. They're tired. Pre-COVID, such a high percentage of people left before they reached year 5.
Right.
And now that's even worse. You have many that they don't even last a year. And they're like, I can't do this. I can't be in the classroom.
Wow. I normally don't stay on the subject too long, but since I have an educator here, I'm going to pick your brain on this education. Now, as you said earlier, that the kids' tablets or what I'm not sure, remember what you called them, their Chromebooks will go out. So my youngest is 23. So I don't have any small kids anymore. But even when she was in her high school days, they were shifting to less books, more technology. So how do you think is that benefiting? Are you a fan of it? Should we put books back in the school?
So it's one of those things, less is more. As we first started transitioning to technology, it was an occasional usage in the class to enhance the lessons. It was more balanced. But the problem with textbooks, they're expensive. The problem with paper copies, it's expensive. And they see Chromebooks as less expensive because you can put all of the assignments on there year after year, and it's not all of the constant printing. It's a one-time expense. But then you have the problem of, if you're in high school and you have 7 classes, you go to 7 classes and you sit on your Chromebook all day. And that's not good for the students. They get tired of it. They zone out their eyes, and it's just not getting quality education. Kids aren't just reading books anymore in large portions of the state of Texas. It's small little passages preparing for the STAR test. And right now, actually in Texas, for those who don't know, the State Board of Education is not only looking at restructuring how we teach history and basically taking out world history, but they're also looking at restructuring what the required readings are through K through 12. And they're taking out books and they're putting in more short passages, including required Bible texts.
What? That's just crazy. That's crazy. And this is definitely not going to help more teachers come in.
No.
And
it's the same kind of thing like they had the 10 Commandments law. So while education is predominantly left to the states, as the federal level, we do need to make sure we are putting procedures and processes in place to ensure our students have their legal right of separation of church and state. Because they're allowed to have religious things at school, like a church club. My kid's school has Cougars for Christ, and once a week in the morning, they go meet at the flagpole and they pray and do what their group does, and that's cool. That's fine. That's a choice the students make and something they decide to participate in. Religion's never been totally banned from public schools, but you can't force it, and that's what we're seeing down here is they are forcing specific religions, Christianity, into, and when they look at it, if you look at it, it's specific versions of the Bible. So this specific version of this specific Bible and this specific passage, so they can say exactly what they want to say.
Last question on education.
Yeah.
The Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
We see right now they're trying to dismantle it. I hear a lot on the other side, like, why do we need it? What is its purpose?
Mm-hmm.
It was a pit for waste, fraud, and abuse. How important is the Department of Education?
Mm-hmm.
And do you think it needs some reforming?
So the Department of Education is essential. If we go back to like 1970s and 1960s and stuff before it existed, our students with exceptionalities or disabilities, they did not receive an education. If they were even allowed in public school, it was shoved off to the side, skeltered away, and not doing what's called their least restrictive environment. So you'll have kids that have certain disabilities, but they're still capable of being in class, learning with their non-disabled peers, and graduating at the same rates. But those students would have been denied their access. And then you have our students that need more structured. So like at my school, it's called the structured learning classroom. Mm-hmm. And these are kids with significant disabilities, like Down syndrome, things like that. And they can still be very productive citizens, and they can still go out and have jobs, take care of themselves, hold lives, when they're provided the proper instruction and the proper supports that they need. And when we take away the Department of Ed, if it were to go truly away, there is no federal oversight then to ensure that the funds for our special education students go to our special education students, to ensure that their rights are being upheld and followed in the educational environment. And not only is that important to me as a teacher, as an educator, but also as a parent. Mm-hmm. Because if we deny our children the accommodations and the services that they need to access an equal playing field, we're denying a whole generation of people from success. And that's just going to further impact us later down the road when we have people who are not able to take care of themselves, when we have people who are not able to hold a job. We're going to see those children as they transition to adults, if they don't have support systems at home, be ending up out on the streets because they're not going to be able to do it because they didn't get what they needed in school. So the Department of Education is essential to protecting so many of our students. And there's more than just the SPED angle. There's a lot of different things in education they protect. And there's always reform that's needed in our departments. We really should be doing every X amount of years a full analysis and making sure, where's this money going? Is this wasteful? Can we do this a better way? And that includes talking to people in the department that are seeing the day-to-day. Hey, what do you notice is taking an extra long time that really shouldn't? Do you have an idea of what could fix that? And that's something that should just be constant within all of our departments and all of our levels, from local government all the way up to the federal government, is trying to figure out just ways to make it more efficient.
100%. We had a comment that did say every state has rules for disabled. It doesn't need to be federal. This is what I'm saying. This is how some people think. But then we did have a question that says, what's your plan on building the funding to support the school system?
So So part of that plan is making sure we are actually making companies and billionaires pay their fair share. So we see every year the ultra wealthy, the mega corporations that are monopolies, spending so much money to legislate to get things passed that they want, that benefit them, well, we need to do it the opposite way. Instead of them spending millions of dollars on politicians, billions of dollars on politicians to get favorable things passed, we need to be taxing them. And when people hear that, a lot of times they think, oh, my taxes are going to go up. No, we're talking about people who make over 50 million a year.
Right.
Even if we went just at that bracket and above, the amount of income we would get through new taxes, that would not affect 99.5% of Americans, right? And that is what we can use to try to help increase these areas like funding for small businesses, funding for our schools, and really pushing money where it needs to be. Because when we rise up, the middle and the working class, everybody profits. Everybody is going to benefit from that, including the billionaires, because people have more money to spend in their companies. People have more money to go to McDonald's, to go to Walmart, to go to their local small businesses. And it keeps just going around and around then, because it's actually going into the economy instead of someone's offshore bank account.
Well, there you have it, folks. All right, so we're going to do my first set of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And they are political. So we're going to do this, like I said, quick, short answers. Climate change. Is it a top priority or a long-term plan?
Both. We need to make immediate changes, but we also need to have long-term to make sure that we are keeping that and we are being steady while still making sure we don't crash the economy.
Agreed. Electric vehicles or public transportation? Which should we invest in first?
Public transportation.
Okay. College debt. Should we forgive it or reform it?
Reform, it should be 0% interest. People should pay back what they borrow and no more.
Okay. Should there be more SCOTUS seats?
Yes, we should expand the court to 13. There's 13 federal districts. There should be 13 SCOTUS seats, and there need to be term limits.
Perfect. One thing you would change about Congress if you could?
Ban stock trading.
Okay. One thing you think that the American people don't care enough about?
Ranked choice voting. I think we could fix a lot of problems if we started to implement more ranked choice voting.
Someone else in our vote count family said that too, that they think everybody should go to rate voting.
Yeah.
If your campaign had a theme song, who is performing it?
Oh, goodness. Oh, that's a really hard one. To be honest, I don't know very many singers.
What? Not Cher or Billie Eilish or Aretha Franklin. I
don't know. Let's go Alicia Keys. I love her voice.
That's a great choice. You can't go wrong with Alicia singing now. All right.
Big, powerful.
Yes. All right. Thank you for that. That was the end of that. Oh, wait. I did have one more. You said term limits for SCOTUS, but should there be term limits for Congress?
Yes. I think every political office needs to have term limits.
Okay. But I'm going to go a little deeper into that one, because what I like to say a lot is there are term limits. You got 2 years to prove to these people that you can do the job, or else you're out of there. Your term is done, right? So technically we do have term limits, but in the sense of term limits, you mean while you got your 2 years, you can only have 5 of those 2 years.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for Congress and Senate, and then I think for Supreme Court, there should be like a one-time term limit, somewhere in like the 20, 25 range, because you want it slow change, but you don't want people in there for like 40 years.
Right. Agreed. Clarence Thomas, go have a state.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go into healthcare and women's health. Okay. Many families in District 38 have insurance, but still struggle with high deductibles, prescription costs, surprise medical bills, especially in suburban areas where provider options can be limited. As a member of Congress Can you hear me? I said you muted too. I'm just gonna make sure she can hear me.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, my thing was like flickering on and off.
Okay.
Okay, am I there?
There
Okay,
you
there
are.
we go.
Okay, great.
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Yes. Many families in District 38 have insurance, but still struggle with high deductibles, prescription costs, and surprise medical bills, especially in suburban areas where provider options can be limited. As a member of Congress, what specific changes would you push at the federal level to make healthcare more affordable and easier to actually use for families in Northwest Harris County?
Yeah, so I think the ultimate goal is Medicare for all.
Okay.
It should not be tied to your employment. Your children's ability to access the doctor should not be tied to their parents' employment. But the healthcare industry is huge. It's a major part of our economy, so it's going to take time to transition to that. So a part of that, one, we need to immediately expand the tax cuts that we are seeing on the chopping block again and again, and there's a lot of arguing with that in Congress. Those need to be extended for 5-10 years so that we have stability, because we saw people's premiums tripling when that was falling off. We also need to expand the access to Medicaid so more people can actually get onto it, and do that with the limits, changing it each year to gradually allow more and more people to transition if that's the choice that they want to make. And making sure that we then, with that, more negotiating of drug prices. When I go to the pharmacy and I need this prescription that my doctor prescribed me, but it's $200 and I don't know if I can afford that, people shouldn't be having to make those choices. So the government definitely needs to step in and start working on making these changes, because healthcare is a human right. And when we live in a country as rich as the United States, people shouldn't be struggling to afford the doctor, especially when the healthcare industries are making so much money. And then along with healthcare, women's rights. We need to codify Roe v. Wade into law. Just full stop. Get rid of these bans. And secondly, we really need to look into the maternal health crisis, especially among Black women. When we see such a disproportionate outcome of pregnant mothers, that should be raising red flags and alarms everywhere, and we need to figure out how to fix that.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Now, you did say, we talk a lot, like we hear just about every candidate who has come up here say they want universal health care. What does that look like for you, and how will it be funded?
So to me, I really like the plans that Bernie has put up before, that the amount that the average American would pay through their taxes was really not very much at all. And for many Americans would be less than they're paying in their premium. And following and using those kinds of plans that have already been built by very informed, very seasoned, in Bernie's case, very seasoned, congressmen and congresspeople will help us kind of start building towards that. And like I said, though, we need to make sure we're doing it in a thoughtful way to transition the healthcare industry, so we don't have a cliff of people suddenly just losing a bunch of jobs, economy crashing, all of that, because it is a very tied up industry.
Correct. So you said that you want to do Bernie Sanders's plan with us putting money into it along. Would it look like it's coming out the taxes, or would this be something different? Because like when you look at your W4, I guess, or your pay stub, right? You have your FICA, you have your Medicare, you have your Social Security, like those lines. Would it be a line that comes out of your paycheck, or is it part of the taxes?
It would
Like your
just
federal
be,
taxes?
yeah, in the way that I see it, it would just be part of the federal taxes. And you would see like the lower income, theirs wouldn't be as much. And once again, we need to make that top 1% pay their fair share. They keep sucking and sucking from the economy. They need to give back. and actually make America a good place to live and the American dream accessible again.
Absolutely. Okay, give me 1 second with that. I just wanted to. We have a very lively audience member who seems to disagree with everything, and his comment was, "Healthcare is not a human right in our Constitution." And I wanted to just let him know that the preamble says that it's provide for the common defense, promote general welfare. I don't know what you call welfare, sir, but welfare means the well-being of people, and secure the blessings of liberty and our prosperity. Again, my health is my prosperity. So it's in the Constitution. Thank you. Now the question was, do you support the Medicare payment plan for medication?
I'm not sure. What do you mean payment plan?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means even. Do you support the Medicare payment plan for medication? I'm not sure what that is either. If whoever sent that question, would you like to come up and expound? But what I was going to say, let me go back to where I was at. It did slip my mind. So I'm going to go to the questions I have here because I had something in my head and then I lost it. But Texas consistently ranks near the bottom nationally for maternal health outcomes, including postpartum care. Even though District 38 has strong healthcare systems nearby. I'm gonna hold that real quick because the woman who asked that question is going to expound on that question. What would you? Welcome to the panel, Miss Trish, and
Hi.
can you ask your question again?
Yes. Hi, Theresa. I'm Patricia. I'm Trish. I'm actually in your district. Thank you for being here. Medicare Savings Plan is something that they created that is supposed to help the consumer. There's two options. They have the Medicare Savings Plan, which doesn't help you because you have to be 5 minutes from being homeless for them to, it's called extra help to help with your medication. So then they created this thing, it's called a payment plan. And they take whatever the cost of the medication is and then divide it out in, let's say if I get my prescription this month, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's $9,000. My portion, my deductible would be $1,345. They would take that $1,345 and split it into 11 months. But what good does it if I have to get that said medication once a month
Every month.
and it continues to add to it? If it was one prescription that lasted the whole year, then okay, that might be a benefit depending on the urgent need of it. But it doesn't help an individual if that's the cost of the medication that they have to have every month and it continues to add to the payment plan for a person that's already receiving Medicare that is already on a fixed income. So it kind of doesn't make sense, but they make the money, but the consumer suffer the consequences.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
so that's what it is.
Yeah, so one of the things definitely with this that we need to do is negotiate drug prices and make sure we are bringing those down and lowering them. And then as we are expanding our access for people for Medicare, we need to make sure that we need to cap drug prices. There should be no life-saving, you got to have this drug to survive like they did with insulin in California. The most it can be a month now, I think, is like $55. Mm-hmm. So we need to put things into place for that to make our medicine affordable. And part of that, as we expand and eventually get to universal health care, if medicine costs anything, it shouldn't be more than $5 or $10 for a month's supply, because once we get that all transitioned, it's, like I said, it's about healthcare rights. Healthcare is a right. Being able to afford your medicine is a right. Mm-hmm. And how are we free when we have people who are working 40 hours a week and they cannot afford to live, they cannot afford to survive? We need real freedom, both in the workplace in our healthcare, everywhere.
Agreed. All right, Miss Trish, I had muted you, Miss Trish. Yeah, background.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So I was just basically just asking, what would you prioritize in Congress to improve maternal health, postpartum support, and workplace protections for women and new mothers in your district?
So we have seen that get so much worse in Texas since the ban after Roe v. Wade was overturned. And while I am not a medical professional, I would work with medical professionals to find out what are the leading causes of the maternal health crisis. What are things that we can do, actionable things to help address that and work with to start implementing those. And in the workplace, we need more protection for our mothers, and not just while they're pregnant, but after. It is shameful that a country as strong as us, as powerful as us, is one of the few developed nations in the world that does not guarantee maternal paid leave.
Mhm.
And then childcare is almost a whole nother mortgage. So you have Republicans arguing that we need to raise the birth rate, we need to raise the birth rate. Then we need to put in actual policies that support mothers, that support working families to make that actually feasible.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Now I just want to, we gotta back up a little bit, just for some audience members. Someone in the audience said that the Democrats are the ones that want to take all our money, right? Can you remind me of what we were just talking about with Governor Abbott and what his plan is for Texas?
He wants to cut property taxes so that they can raise the sales tax then to 25 to 30%, so that schools are not properly funded. We have the voucher scams where they promised all of this money so people could send their children to private schools instead of public. But yet when you look at the over 250 counties in Texas, so many of them do not have access, do not have a private school anywhere nearby to send their child above pre-K or kindergarten. So they're just taking from the public schools and not actually providing the opportunities.
And mind you, folks, Texas does not have state taxes.
Nope.
So if we don't have state taxes, we don't have property taxes, how do you get your roads fixed? How do you get an ambulance to your house? A fire truck to your house? How does your
regressive taxes?
Say that again?
Extremely regressive taxes. That's what they're aiming for.
I just, how do you get your water fixed, sir? I mean, the pipes don't fix themselves.
Nope. And here in Texas, after the freeze, because we have, so electricity is marketplace. So there's companies that control it, and you can choose your company. After the freeze, and then with all these AI centers coming in, they're just passing that cost off to the consumer and raising energy prices instead of actually updating the grid, making the AI centers that are coming in and sucking up tons of energy actually cover that, because they're giving them tax cuts to bring them in as they suck up energy and they suck up water. When Texas doesn't have enough water in a lot of areas, they're putting these AI centers in.
Yeah, we're hearing that's a big problem where there's already water shortages in places, and they're trying to put data centers in there that require water. So I mean, you could go get the water from Flint, Michigan. They don't need to drink it anyway, so use that water. I don't know, right? Well, I'm about to go into probably your next favorite topic, and that is Veterans Affairs and National Guard.
Yes.
As we know, there has been a lot to do about the National Guard and how they have been being used with this administration. Bless you.
Thank you.
And so, again, and the National Guard is increasingly being called on for long deployment, disaster response, and domestic missions, which can strain Guard members and their families. Based on your experience, what's your view on how the National Guard is being used today, and what changes, if any, do you think Congress should consider to better support Guard members and respect their dual role as soldiers and civilians?
So, first of all, when people enlist in the National Guard, they want to serve their community. They want to protect their community. They want to keep them safe. We're talking natural disasters like floods. When we had Hurricane Harvey down here, we activated the Guard. We had members of our community stepping up, rescuing people. We saw it with hurricanes out in New Orleans. That is why people join the National Guard, is to protect their community and to serve their country, not to go out on the streets of DC and walk around for long periods, and with such poor planning that they were just sleeping on the ground.
They're still here. They're still here.
That is not how they should be. That is not the goal of the National Guard. Now, if your unit is activated and you're sent overseas, what happens, unfortunately? And that's a whole nother discussion about should we be getting into these wars and all of that. But when we are deploying our members of the National Guard within our own border, it should only be for short term, for responding to natural disasters and protecting our civilians. And having them walking around DC is not protecting our civilians. It's not making real change. I know the Republicans argue that they're seeing a drop in crime. That's not longevity. Once the National Guard pulls out, that's not making any real long-term change. And people did not join the Guard to go harass the homeless.
Hey.
And then we see in Minnesota the nationalizing of the, not nationalizing, but the deployment of the Guard there to protect protesters, protecting their neighbors. That's what Guardsmen want to do. Just like in California in November, when food stamps were running out, he activated the Guard to go help with the food banks and deliver food. That is what they are for.
Right.
My unit that I served in Michigan, after I was out of the Guard, the Flint crisis, they went and they delivered water. So people had safe drinking water. That is what people join the Guard for, is to serve and protect their communities, not harass their neighbors. So we need to make sure that we are utilizing our military correctly, respectfully, and essentially.
100% agree. Like I said, is the National Guard and the reserves two different things?
Yes. So
Okay.
there's the Army, and then the Army Reserve is part of the active duty Army, but they just meet one weekend a month like the Guard does. But the National Guard is actually completely separate. So the Army and the Army Reserve answer only to the president. The National Guard answers to the governor of their state and then the president. So they have kind of like dual that they could get sent by. But that's why the National Guard is one that's often activated, because they're much quicker too on the state level. Correct.
Which is why they're to each state, so that you could get to the disaster faster.
Yes.
Where an Army or Army Reserve could be anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Understood. As a veteran yourself, you experienced the system from the inside out. Many veterans still struggle with delayed VA care, mental health access, and benefit backlogs. If elected, what would you push in Congress to improve accountability and real-world outcomes for veterans and military families, especially those transitioning back to a civilian life?
So right now, the way it stands, our VA system is awful. There is a huge backlog. Trying to hire new people takes months and months and months and months, which means we're losing our best candidates to have the best doctors to serve our veterans. The amount of fighting and back and forth that you have to do to prove that you qualify for what you qualify for is such a hurdle for so many veterans. So we need to revamp the whole system, and we need to make sure that each veteran has someone in their corner, a caseworker or a a mentor who's also a veteran. That is some sort of paid position, which provides jobs for our veterans to help them work their way through that system so that it's easier for them to access what they need. My father-in-law, before he passed away, he was severely health issues because of Agent Orange exposure. And at times, the fighting with the VA to get him what he needed was just horrible. He was fortunate that his sons, including myself, married to his son, were able to provide him in-home care and keep him in his house as long as we did, because it took that long to get payments and to get assistance affording nursing home when it got to the point that we physically could not care for him anymore because he needed such specialized care.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh. Yeah, my dad was a veteran himself, and when he passed away, he actually was at a VA hospital, and it was so much red tape trying to get him back because he was in New Orleans actually, and we was trying to get him back here to DC, where all his family was, and he's in Quantico. That's where he's buried. So. I mean, they work for something, I guess, because we know we know how we was gonna get it, but because of his service, they did at least bury him. So we got that much out of it.
That should be one of the easiest things they should be assisting with is after your loved one dies who served our country, they should not be making it more difficult on the family to honor that person's wishes.
Yep, absolutely. Ms. Trish asked, do you support community care program to make it better?
Yes, especially with very urgent things like mental health. The wait list to actually get...
Hold on. Help out this non-Texan. What is community care program?
So community care, a lot of that, it's an expansion of, so if I have this specialized thing that I need and the closest VA for me to receive that is like 200 miles away, then the VA pays for me to get that in my local area.
Okay.
But often with the VA, sometimes the access to the mental health can be so backlogged. And we know that's something that is immediate. If a veteran is on that border, we need assistance now. So we need to expand community care for mental health especially, but other places as well to try to fill in the gaps because there's not a VA everywhere. And there's places where people have to drive a very long way to access VA care. And when you look outside of the United States borders of just the United States, you have like Guam, which is a territory of the United States, has many veterans there, but no access.
Wow. I mean, I like I said, while my dad, as I said, was in New Orleans, I lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Okay. So we're talking 80 miles.
Yeah.
80 miles. That was the closest VA.
And that is a long drive, especially when you have someone who is struggling or is having some sort of health issue. And that if that person has someone else to drive them. Because if they can't drive themselves.
Well, he stayed there for a while, so I had to limit my visits like once a week. Because of how far it was. Now, if he was down the street, I've probably been there every day by my dad's side. And what happened to him probably wouldn't have happened. But but because of the distance, I had to limit it to once a week. So we have to get more. I think the VA at this point should be state of the art.
Yes.
I mean, like if we don't take care of nobody else, Mr. Healthcare isn't a right. If we don't take care of anyone else, we should take care of the people who decided to put their life on the line for our country. If we don't take care of anybody else, it should be state of the art. You should not have a hospital that, has all the bells and whistles that's in this nice uppity neighborhood just because they got money. No, the VA should be top notch every time, like no questions asked.
Yep. And a lot of their infrastructure is crumbling.
Yeah, I know.
And they're not getting the funding they need. And like I said, with the staffing, it takes so long to get hired into the VA that we lose so many good candidates.
Wow.
We should have the best doctors there.
Yeah.
Making sure that our veterans are taken care of, provided for, especially because they have such unique needs because of the things they are exposed to in service. Things that normal civilians, they don't have any exposure to that. It's not something routinely studied. And that's something the VA has to do, but they can't do that when they don't have proper staff and proper funding.
And yeah, we had this administration making people believe that doctors were hired and wasn't qualified.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to do my second rapid fire, and this is fun. This is the fun stuff. This is the questions that is going to really get you elected. See, the policy stuff, the political stuff, that's not going to get. These are the questions that's going to get you elected. Okay. Your favorite thing to barbecue?
Ooh, brisket.
Okay.
I love some brisket. Now I want some.
Well, I'm about to make it worse. Pecan pie or pralines?
Ooh, pecan pie.
Okay. Chili or chili con queso?
You are really hitting me with these hard-hitting questions. I just had Mexican today, so I think I'm going to say chili.
Okay. Tex-Mex or authentic Tex? Tex-Mex or authentic Mexican?
Ooh, authentic Mexican.
Okay. Your favorite margarita recipe?
Ooh, oh my gosh. I'm going to be honest, and people might not like this answer. Chili's, they have such good $5 margaritas.
Whatever Chili's doing, that's what we go with right there. Text or call?
Text.
Okay.
You can do it any time of the day.
Right. Gold or silver?
Silver.
You want to be the smartest or the richest?
Smartest.
Would you rather see the future or change the past?
That is a good question. Very insightful. So I'd say see the future, but in order to actually see and shape our future, we need to make sure we understand our past.
Agreed. Last and final question. This is probably the most important one. Texans or Cowboys?
Texans.
She went Texans, y'all. She got my vote. She got my vote. Y'all know I don't do nothing in Texas, period. But we going to go with the Texans over the Cowboys. I told you these was the real questions that was going to get you elected, right? Well, we're going to go ahead and go into our last topic here, which is about public safety and immigration.
Yes.
Which Texas is not short on at all, okay? Even though District 37 isn't on the border, immigration policy directly affects local schools, hospitals, and employers across Northwest Harris County. What role should Congress play in fixing the immigration system in a way that is firm, fair, and realistic for communities like yours?
So first off, when you look at our immigration system, it is so confusing and convoluted. And that's why it has been so easy for Republicans to lie about it. When you look at, this is their own data, the people being detained by ICE, the overwhelming vast majority of them have not committed a violent crime. They've not been convicted. And when they are picking people up from court, that means they are going about it the correct and legal way. But there are so many different confusing paths to get full legal status here to live here. We need to streamline that. First of all, we need immigrants. They are what is keeping our social security system running. Even if you are here illegally, you can get an EIN number and you can pay taxes. But they don't get to do their federal returns. They're paying money in and they never get it back because they don't get to do social security. And that is what is keeping our systems afloat right now because we are having a declining birth rate. So when we have the people my age and people older as they're aging up and getting to Social Security, if we want that to still be there, we need something to keep it afloat. And immigrants are a good source for that. They bring in not only lots of diversity, which is good, that makes us stronger. They bring in good work ethic. And I work with immigrants every day. At my school, I am the counselor who works with the kids who are new to country. My students don't get in trouble. They work hard. One of my baby girls that just graduated, she carried a notebook around with her, and when she met an English word she didn't know, she would write it down. She'd go to the teacher at the end of class. What is this word? How do you say it? What does it mean? She would write it all down, and she would study her notebook. We have such hard-working people that want to come here, who want to succeed, and they can support our country, and they can make it a more thriving community. And that is what we need to do, is we need to fix our immigration process. We need to allow people who want to come here and work to come and work. And we can do short-term work visas. Okay, they've been here for a year. They've been here for 2 years. They haven't caused any trouble. They've been working productively. We haven't had any issues. They want to stay longer. Let's see about extending that. And just actually having a good process to get good quality people here. Because so many of our immigrant neighbors, they just want to work and live. Mm-hmm. And when we have ICE going into cities like Minneapolis, acting like, I can't even describe it, acting the way they're acting, terrorizing communities, grabbing people out of their cars, grabbing people as they head to court, grabbing people from work. Those are not violent criminals. Everybody on both sides of the political spectrum agree that we need to take care of the violent people in our country, and we shouldn't have them out on the streets. But we need due process, because when our rights are denied for one person, they're denied for everybody. Mm-hmm. And due process is something that is guaranteed to everybody within the borders of our country, whether they are a citizen or not. And quite frankly, if we have someone who is an immigrant, that they're not a citizen, and they commit a horrible, violent crime, I don't want them deported. I want them to go through our court system and sit in our jail so we know where they are. Because if they get deported, we know there's ways for them to sneak back in. We need to secure our border and make it harder for people to sneak in so we know who's coming in. And we need to make it easier for good people to come in instead of having these 20-year-long wait lists. Mm-hmm. So it is a very multifaceted issue that we need to fix. But immigration has always been essential for the growth and the thriving of our country. All of us, at one point or another, were immigrants, except Native Americans, obviously. But we all had ancestors that one way or another, they came over here. And if at that time they happened to be the right color or from the right country, they were able to just walk in. And just because your ancestors came 5 generations ago, that doesn't mean we shouldn't have people coming now.
Right. And I think that's one of the biggest issues for me, especially the ones the immigrants who came here, 2 decades ago. Now it's like, no, nobody else. Close the door, lock it. We don't want nobody else to come in. With what you just said, there's lots of pathways to come here, to get here, to stay here. Yet we do know that there are people who violate those pathways. They either come in without being seen, they overstay their visas, they are told to be, they have to leave, that their asylum wasn't approved or the documentation they gave wasn't good enough. And they said, I'm sorry, that's not going to work. You have to self-deport. And they don't. So we know these things happen, especially a lot in Texas. So do you feel ICE and border control are necessary?
So I think there are portions within our society that they are necessary, but they're not, they shouldn't be out on the streets like this. They shouldn't be knocking down doors, dragging people out of cars, grabbing American citizens, shoving them, hitting them, spraying them with pepper spray, shooting them 10 times as they lay on the ground. Right? Just because in little instances here and there, there's something that would be useful and something that we need, doesn't mean we just all the way out. Mm-hmm. When we have people that overstay their visas, that is a very common way that we have people here illegally, is they come on student visas, on tourist visas, what have you, coming on planes, and they don't leave. That's a huge, huge, huge portion of what we actually see. And we need to make sure that, yeah, those are processed. And that if you are here illegally and you overstayed your visa, then we need to find ways to deal with that. But we need to look at, why are these people overstaying their visas? And that's what we're talking about with the reform. If someone wants to come here and work, we need to have a place that allows for that to happen. As long as they are a good person, there's plenty of companies that want to hire. And a lot of these companies, they're not taking American jobs because they don't want to work those jobs. We saw that when they were doing massive roundups out in the farm area and they no longer had farm workers. And then they started peeling back on that because they realized, oh, they can't find people to work these farm jobs. We can't find people to work these factory jobs where they're slaughtering and stuff. Yeah. So there are jobs that the vast majority of Americans are not going to want to fill, and we still need those jobs filled. So making sure we have very good processes to allow people to come do that. And if they're a good person, they come here, they don't cause trouble, and they want to extend, have a process for that as well. Because America thrives on immigration. That has always been our history.
Absolutely. So my last question, on within the topics, as I said, this is also about public safety. We know that this administration also has rolled back data that we need that tells us about the conduct of former police officers, or or current police officers at this point. How do you think, once you get into Congress, and I'm going to say you're going to get there, because, baby, this has been beautiful. Once you get there, what steps are you going to take to hold police all across this United States accountable and be able to bridge the relationship between them and the communities that they serve?
So we see this in time and time again when you have leaders that are leaning towards totalitarianism or authoritarianism, is they go after education, they go after data, because they don't want people educated. So we need to make sure not only are we well funding our schools so people are educated to think and be critical thinkers, we need to make sure we are collecting data. For instances across the country where we have interactions with police, and making sure those are reported federally and that we can see what's going on, evaluate trends, and try to come up with solutions while working with the local communities. But also, some of the things he's rolled back data on is tracking child food insecurity. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure we are collecting as much data on these different issues in our country as we can, because without data, we cannot make informed choices. Without knowing what is going on in our cities when it comes to police officers, to federal agencies, and any kind of law enforcement that's interacting with citizens, if we don't have data on what's happening, how that's going, of the issues, you can't come up with solutions because you don't have a place to start. Data is essential in coming up with solutions and working with the locals, getting stakes and voices from as many different backgrounds as we can, because I don't know everything. I don't experience everything. So making sure that people from different backgrounds, from different areas, have a voice in that, so that we can make sure we're getting the best that we can.
Absolutely. Like I said, this has been an absolute wonderful conversation. I have gotten so much knowledge from you, and I totally appreciate it. I'm just going to end with this last question. Many people really feel disconnected from Congress, and unsure whether their voices really matter. How do you plan to earn and keep the trust of your constituents who may not always agree with you, but still want honest, responsive representation?
So communication is key. Here in District 38 right now, we have Wesley Hunt, and he is one of the most absentee representatives. Not only does he miss most of his votes, you can't get a hold of him. You can't get a hold of his office when you call. He almost rarely holds town halls, and when he does, they're not overly promoted, except among certain people. So it's hard to have actual interaction with our representative. While our neighboring district with Lizzie Fletcher I get more emails from her than I do from my own representative. She sends weekly updates to her people. When she's flying home from the plane from DC on Friday, she's working on her newsletter of what happened that week, what they did, what they voted for, why she voted for it. So even if you don't agree with her, you can understand the reasoning and what's going on, what's coming up. So she's very, very communicative, and that is essential. But not just that, making sure we have as many town halls as we can across the district. Now, 38 is lucky in that our district is entirely within Harris County. You can't say that for a lot of districts in Texas. We have ones that stretch from Austin all the way out to Midland, and that's, I think, about a 6-hour drive, give or take, right? That's no. So luckily 38 is within all of Harris County, but still going to the north side, the south side, the middle, holding town halls in the communities so it's easier for people to access. And an essential part, I think, also will be I want to set up a community advisory board. This will be a group of volunteers that I'll talk to, that'll bring me issues from the community, but trying to make that as representative as we can, as culturally diverse, as economically diverse, as diverse with ages, as with religion, as many different walks of life as we can, because like I said, I don't know everything. I don't understand what everybody is going through everybody's perspective and their different interactions in life. So talking to as many people as I can, having as many interactions with my constituents will allow me to serve them the best. Because what I know right now might not hold true in a year. So it's a constant back and forth and communicating with the people to understand what is going on so that we can continue to serve them year after year and give them the best that we can.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Court. One of my favorite facts I learned about Texas is that they're actually blue.
Yes,
That
they're a non-voting state, not a red state.
It's a non-voting state. I mean, literally, there are more blue registered voters than there are red, with non-vote or independent voters right in that same number. So it's amazing.
And that's why we just saw in the special election for the state senate, we saw Tyler Ramette flip that seat.
That's
that
right.
was heavily red.
Awesome. We already on the roll. We on the roll.
Oh.
Yes. Well, let everyone know when the primary is, how they can get in touch with you, where they can find you, how they can support you.
Yes. So primary is March 3rd. Early voting starts February 17th. We are less than 2 weeks out from early voting. You can learn more at courtsforcongress.com. So courts like a courthouse, courtsforcongress.com. I have my contact information there, my platform. If you would love to donate, I would really appreciate that. Unfortunately, congressional races are very expensive. It's a bad thing about politics. If you're interested in volunteering or if you just want to learn more. And even if you don't like me, I would highly encourage you to go look up everybody on your ballot, because all of Texas is having their primary on March 3rd. Look at everybody on your ballot from the highest seat to the lowest seat and make a plan to vote. Because remember, right now in the primary, you have the biggest impact. There are so many fewer people who vote, so your vote goes further. So vote for who you think can win in November and who aligns with your beliefs from the top of the ballot all the way down to the bottom of the ballot.
Well, y'all heard the lady now. Now get on out there, Texas. That was my country, my Texas accent. Did you like it? Okay. All right. Again, I thank you so much for joining us this evening. It has been a true pleasure. I want to invite you to come and sit with us for more of these. You are I believe our 103rd. We just celebrated our 100th the other day, so it was super special and awesome. So we ready to go to our 200th shortly, and you are on that roll with us. So our next town hall that we are having is coming up at 8 o'clock. It's with a young man by the name of Shamal Carter, and he is running for a state representative seat in Arkansas. So he's trying to make some changes in Arkansas. Okay.
Maybe some changes over there.
Yes, they need some changes over there too. So, so he is coming up at 8 o'clock. So you could come back and sit with us for that one, and listen in on what's happening over there. Then we also do a roundtable every other Sunday.
Okay.
And our roundtables. Let me see if I can pull this up. You know what? There we go. Thank y'all. Y'all on it. We have one coming on the 15th, and then we have another one on the 1st. So in case you can't, make the 15th, come on the 1st. But look for email concerning this, and we'd love to have you. Basically, we get a bunch of candidates together. They sit around. They brainstorm, get ideas from each other. I like to say, come up with the plan of how the 120th class is coming in. We're not just walking in, we marching in. So, so when we get y'all already on the same page, we win, right?
Yes.
So again, at 3 o'clock on Sundays, we do a round table. Now, I just want to tell you and everybody else, we are doing a what we call a Creators Caucus. Now, the Creators Caucus is people who are doing our content creators on TikTok. Mostly we are in the political realm of TikTok, people all over the place, but we pretty much stay in the political realm of TikTok. So we've gathered a bunch of creators together to hear what they have to say about this political climate and what they really want to hear from the candidates. So I really encourage you to come to that, because you may get some good information about what the people are really looking for.
For sure. Thank you.
So again, y'all, thank y'all all so much for being here. Thank you, Our Vote Counts. Thank you, audience, and all your participation. We appreciate you being here. Again, come back in less than 30 minutes to come see what Shamal is about. Let me remind you all who we are. We are Our Vote Counts. We are a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity like Ms. Courts here, and ensure that every voice is heard. Through education, outreach, accountability, and action, we're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time. So make sure you continue to join us, because your vote is your power. Thank you, everybody.